Hey there, cool fans. This is Dave.
And this is Phil.
Today we're going to talk about our new series, Heroes Held Hostage. In it, we try to decide how mainstream comic book companies can use their own intellectual property and advance storylines, advance characters, and re-energize their fan base. Specifically in this series, we're going to talk about DC Comics, the Spectre. Phil, tell us a little bit about the Spectre.
The Spectre was created in the 1940s, debuted in More Fun Comics number 52, was created by artist Bernard Bailey and Superman co-creator Jerry Siegel. The Spectre has been a character seen throughout various comics and stories published by DC Comics. Sometimes he's a generic superhero figure, sometimes he's a generic mystical figure, sometimes he's a one gigantic MacGuffin, and he's also a member of the Justice Society of America.
He's a founding member.
Yep, he's a founding member.
All right, so why do we need to bring him back?
I think that in the morally gray, complex world that we live in, the Spectre is definitely a character that could provide a unique angle on that.
Why?
The Spectre is a character with the power to basically do whatever he wants, to fight evil however he wants.
Says who?
Well, as at least in the DC universe is concerned, God.
Okay, so we got this really awesome, powerful guy. Jim Corrigan, right? That's the vessel that's being used. And he's going around acting on behalf of the Voice, or that's DC's nod to God. And you want to take this character, brush him off the dust, and take him off the shelf, and throw him into our morally ambiguous world. All right, how you doing that?
By having him confront things on a case-by-case basis.
What do you mean?
For instance, you have him, say, confront gun issues.
Now, that's a hot button topic. Do you really want to go there?
The thing is, would the Spectre want to go there? How would a character such as Jim Corrigan, as the Spectre, would want to go against things such as gun issues? What angle would he be coming from with it? And what would be the resulting fallout?
Wow, that's like, think about it though. When you have that going on, you got these writers whose livelihood depends on how well these comic books sell.
Yeah.
Taking a stance. Now, let's assume that whoever writes this is going to do their research. They're going to dot their I's and cross their T's, do a lot of good research in whatever side they choose to take. They may even create a third side, a fourth side to the issues. And they're going, what you're suggesting, and let me see if I get this right, you're going to have this voice of God demand retribution and accountability on one particular side of a hot button topic like gun control.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, it's not so simple, not so cut and dry as a lot of people would think it is. The Spectre would have to decide what would his actions be to take against the matter of a mass shooting. Who would be to blame? And how would the Spectre punish that person that he feels is to blame? And what would be, again, the consequences of those actions? Who would respond to that? Who would go up to him and say, hey, are you sure you're doing the right thing here? What makes you so high and mighty? What makes you the authority figure on this stuff? And he would just flout his power about it.
Well, he did kind of like, in previous incarnations, he did like destroy an entire country, right?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so his ability to stop a problem from reaching a critical mass is well within his wheelhouse. He has those powers to stop things from going terribly wrong, right?
Yes.
Okay. But what you're suggesting is that he be the what is that? The uh, target dummy for a lot of these uh, critical issues. That he stands up and says, "I'm going to pick a side," and whatever good or bad comes from picking that side, it plays out in the story. Is that kind of like what you're saying?
Yes. Because, like you said, he destroyed a country. And what was the resulting fallout from that? Well, the US government said to Superman, "Hey, Superman, do you think you can go and handle this for us? We'll also give you the Spear of Destiny. You know, the very thing that killed Jesus Christ on the cross. This is probably the only thing that could hurt the Spectre, since he's an otherworldly divine figure. We'll have you go and take care of that for us because he did this."
So wait, we're going to be using well, this is 2018 of this recording. We're going to be using like literal relics from centuries ago that the average person who may identify as atheist may not immediately recognize, and throw in some of this like old school religious fire and brimstone philosophy, or this divine judgment that isn't so immediately palatable in contemporary society. Not many people uh, proclaim to have like a great understanding of their own religion, even if they are religious. That seems to be the purview of scholars and theologians and such. Would the Spectre fill that gap?
Possibly, but it's not necessarily meant to answer whether this religion or that religion is the right or wrong one.
Okay.
It's that, again, things are more complex than what they seem. There is no clear-cut right or wrong answer. There is what you know, what are you going to do about it, and how will you feel after you've done it.
Okay. I think that the Spectre could really kind of fill that void that is not being done. A lot of our superhero movies now, and even in other comic books, the heroes are invincible. They're gods themselves. What's fun about watching one super invulnerable person beat up another super invulnerable person?
I think it's so much of the matter that it's not the physical properties that matter, even though they do kind of factor in there. It's also the character that matters, how they feel with all these powers, how they feel having these powers, and what they must do with them. You take a character like Superman.
Okay.
He's supposed to be this invincible godlike alien.
Right.
But the thing is, he does what he does because he feels that he has these powers and he wants to help people.
Does the Spectre's mantle Jim Corrigan, right?
Yes.
Well, that's at least one of the
One version, yes.
one version, the main version.
Yeah.
So he's going to want to go and do good too, but he's acting under not just an alien understanding of the world, but of divine interpretation of the world, seeing like a master plan, or at least one aspect of a master plan, or one perspective of a master plan over what's right or wrong, and that sets Jim Corrigan off on his like supernatural, spiritual, occultish powers to save the world from itself.
Yes. And the thing of it is, Jim Corrigan is merely the host for this entity. The entity, if not bound by a human host, would just go off and do whatever. But it's the human host that would keep it grounded. That would keep it trying to make sure to be more comprehensive.
Okay, so here's a question for you then. Phil, would you make Jim Corrigan return? He's already dead in the storylines. But like we know in most superhero books, the hero doesn't have to stay dead.
Yeah.
So would you bring back Corrigan?
Yes, I would.
Why?
Well, for one, DC already brought him back.
Okay.
I mean,
But why is he necessary? Oh yeah, otherwise he just seems like recycled. Like we've already seen this. You just touched up the fine lines and kind of polished uh, wiped the dust off of him. Here he is again. What did we get from this Jim Corrigan version? I guess 3.0. What do we get from that? Why are you bringing him back?
well, that would also be a unique perspective. That would also be a unique question that could also be asked in a potential story for the Spectre. Why is Jim Corrigan brought back? Heck, that question is asked often whenever any hero is brought back to life. Why was Hal Jordan brought back to life? Why was Barry Allen brought back to life? Why was Superman brought back to life?
Well, yeah, there's lots of questions for those. Specifically in this, why does Corrigan come back? Why does he need to come back? Why are you bringing him back? And why is he held hostage? Like, what are we getting at? What do we want him to do that isn't being done with his character, that isn't being done in DC stuff? Tell us, Phil.
Well, for one, they tried to pass off the Spectre mantle to other characters. And
How'd it go?
well, when they put it on Hal Jordan, he just ended up becoming Green Lantern again. When they put it on the Detective Crispus Allen, he was only used sparingly until the New 52 reboot, and they made him Jim Corrigan again.
Now, Jim Corrigan was a cop, so they kind of have that kind of, you know, Hal Jordan being kind of like the Green Lantern space cop kind of thing, and you said about, the policeman, the protector character is consistent through many of the hosts.
Yes.
How does that work in today when people are afraid of cops?
I think what should be taken into context is that no one is truly perfect. No one is high and mighty. No one is more superior than the other.
This is really hard to understand, and I think it's complex because we're saying that he's working on behalf of God, who, if we assume, even if DC waters it down, we know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're saying God. They can put the voice, they can put spirit, they can whatever.
Yeah.
But we know they're trying to say God. They're trying to appeal to us to make that connection. The voice is God. So when you say that there is no authority, there is no perfection, that's kind of contradictory to the many assumptions of God. So if the Spectre goes out and does something, whatever, fill in the blank, we have to presume that he was an errand boy for God, right?
Basically, yeah. I guess it's just really a matter of how does he make the best out of this situation that he's in?
Excuse me.
As well as the kind of toll it would take on his character.
Well, if being dead wasn't bad enough,
Yeah.
now I've got to deal with contemporary issues that seem to have no clear right or wrong. And here's judgment. I'm gonna make a decision that I think is in the best of society, while I root out evil and try to understand it. Earlier we'd talked about the hot topic button issues of gun control and things of that nature. I think the Spectre would be an interesting way to tap into readers' ideas on that issue. The Spectre comes in, and why does he need to come in? He comes in because there's lots of mass shootings and such.
Basically, people being terrible to each other.
Right. At the end of the day, no matter what side our listeners or anybody chooses to fall on, pro-gun, anti-gun, no gun, all guns, however, I think everyone agrees that the people committing these mass crimes are they're murderers. They are bad. There was something bad.
Yeah.
Even if it's mental health, mental illness issues, certainly by the time you become to be a murderer, I think there's something that went wrong in your life. I don't think that a mentally healthy person decides to be a murderer, especially on the scales for these mass shootings. But the complexities of the laws, of the rights, of the freedoms, of safety, all these key buzzwords become the different villains that the Spectre kind of has to fight. Is this topic of, let's say we're continuing the story of gun control, is it well researched by the team? Let's assume it is. Let's assume they've done all their good work. The Spectre gives DC an anchor and foothold into current contemporary socio-political economic problems that are debated in our legislature, that are debated from the pulpit, that are debated on the streets, at the Thanksgiving dinner table, and everyone's trying to find a nice solution. Spectre doesn't care. The Spectre wouldn't care. He would come down with authority and say, this is the answer, stop, dancing around the issue. I'm giving you the answer.
He's basically being like one of those people that are listening to all the sides of the argument, and he's just being like, just shut up!
Yeah.
Everyone just shut up!
Yeah.
I don't care about this issue or that issue. I just want you to stop and just live in peace or move on or something.
Or in his visage, not be evil.
Basically, just not be a dick.
Yeah.
Pardon my French.
Right. Yes. Apologies to anyone named Richard in our audience. But no, I mean, the character of the Spectre has this unique occult, spiritual. I mean, he looks like death. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I don't know if I would keep his look or if I'd give him a little polish. I don't know. I'd probably give him a couple more cool skulls or something like that. The green and the white looks a lot. I could see the Hal Jordan. It's not a hard sell for me to see Hal Jordan as the Spectre, especially given the color scheme that we have. But yeah, I throw him in 2018. I think he does need a little bit of a costume change to be a little bit more reflective, and that would be an interesting look for him as well. I think DC can free Corrigan, can free the Spectre if they look at the property as fantasy or even modern society, spiritualism, and horror as the genre, to really kind of dive into some of those messy, ugly topics.
Yeah.
And make them horrific. Not that they have to be overly graphic.
No.
But they can be a mature theme. And that would give them a unique niche in the market that they don't currently have.
And it's also a matter of whether DC would be willing to commit to it. And in what way would they depict this?
Tell me about the commitments. We talked about this earlier before the show. Let's rehash that. DC seems to have a commitment problem.
They can't seem, and it's not just DC, it's also Marvel too. Well, Marvel to a more extreme extent, but DC had problems committing to the idea of an ongoing series. It doesn't matter whether it be for any of their major characters or any of their lesser tier characters. DC had problems committing to an ongoing format. You want to have something in a limited format, that's fine. Then try to at least be clear about it. And if you're going to commit something to the long term, well, you got to be prepared for the ups and downs that would entail. There's a reason why we've had such long-running series up until a couple years ago, like Action Comics and Detective Comics. It didn't matter whether sales were good or bad. It didn't matter whether reviews were good or bad. It didn't matter who was writing, who was drawing, who was editing. They still kept publishing them, regardless, because they were the things that helped build them.
When you first pitched the idea of having the Spectre, I wasn't sure. I knew very little about the character. I did a little research, read a few of the books, and trade paperbacks are always a great way to catch up. I always encourage our readers to hit their local comic book stores, help support your local businesses where you live. But having caught up on the Spectre, I was impressed by his ability to do just about anything. And I think there is a place for him today to do that anything is to do something that a lot of other heroes aren't doing, taking a side that might not be initially popular because nobody wants to offend anybody else, and in so doing offends everybody. I can't pick this side because that side's going to be angry. I can't make this choice without including this other group. And everybody, it's like an ice cream store that only serves vanilla ice cream. Some people may not like chocolate. That's fine. What, Baskin Robbins, the ice cream store, 31 flavors. If you don't like chocolate, if you don't like vanilla, pick another one. The Spectre would be saying, here are the choices you have available. I'm going to pick one for you. You might not like it, but it's good for you. It's the medicine that you need. And sometimes medicines have bitter aftertastes.
It's a way of providing variety in which there is a definite demand for it.
Well, I think what we could do with DC, if they're, and this is what really I found exciting in planning this episode with you, Phil, is that DC can do plant a flag using comic books as a time capsule of modern current events. I mean, if anything, at their base, comic books entertain, sure, but comic books also is sequential art driving a story. When we have a lot of emotional issues, like watch the news, pick anything on the news, they're all emotional driven, except for like the weather. Like, you know, outside of the weather, everything else is emotionally charged. And even the weather might be charged too if you want to go to the beach and it's going to rain. But everything in the news is emotionally driven. Your sports team win. This is what this new politician's saying. This is what this entertainer said. Whatever. It's all emotional. That's how they get you to continue watching the news.
It's a lack of nuance, basically.
If the Spectre took that emotional charge of media consumption and said, I'm going to take this idea, one idea, and run it down for a touchdown. Even if he ran to the opposite side of the field and he got a touchdown on the other side of the field, at least he's doing something. Whereas a lot of other heroes are hands off. Let the team play. It's okay. Everyone can get a trophy. It's okay. They don't involve or invest themselves. The Spectre shows up and he runs with one story, proclaiming it is the right story or the right action or the right choice. And where it's really pivotal is if he makes a mistake. If fan backlash or fan support says that was a terrible decision that Spectre made, DC can run it back and say, wait a minute, okay, we're going to write this and rewrite this, that Corrigan made a mistake. Or be more reflective or responsive to the times. I mean, pick any hot button topic. Now, choose one side, and what's the phrase? Reductio ad absurdum. Pick the most ridiculous thing that could happen if you followed that one choice. Okay? Mm-hmm. Are you with me?
Yes.
All right, Spectre does that. And he acts on that choice, proclaiming that he's doing so under divine authority. Right?
Yes.
Some people may not like that. Some people might pick up a pen, and start writing an angry letter to DC and say, I can't believe you did that. And DC just comes back and says, wait, let's see where this goes. The story doesn't end with one issue. The story doesn't end with one choice. We just showed you one choice. We showed you the dominoes being pushed. We didn't show you the bigger picture. Did you ever see those dominoes where there's like big conventions and they push them and like makes this whole big picture? Yeah, fans would get upset at the first domino falling, thinking, "Oh my gosh, he's pro this or anti this or whatever." But it's just one domino that the Spectre puts into motion, and the ramifications of that choice, of that declaration of this is right, this is against evil. How those dominoes fall, that's storytelling. That's not identity politics. That's not demographic appeal. That's storytelling. Beyond whatever or whomever the Spectre becomes. If it's Corrigan, great. If not, I think it should be Corrigan. But again, convincingly tell me the story. Sell me a story. Make me believe in the character. Make me want to say, you idiot, or you're a hero. Make me invested, not just a straw man that does what is the safest, most politically correct thing to do at this time. Let me tighten my tie and make sure everything is done prim and proper. Okay? Let Corrigan fall on his face. Some choices he makes, even, again, any pro or con choice, I think a rational person could sit and say, I see some good elements in what the opposition says.
Yeah.
I can rationalize. I may not agree, but I can hear some intelligence behind what you're saying. At least, I don't know, 1%, 10%, whatever. There are nuggets from both sides that bear merit. Corrigan just takes, as the Spectre, just takes the ball and runs with one of those nuggets. One of those things that people can say, I see where he was coming from. That makes sense, but man, I wouldn't have done it this way. Let fans get angry. Let fans root for him. But at the end of the day, you've got readership. People will want to know what the next thing Corrigan does. If he colossally makes a mistake, they're going to prey on him. And if he does what the readership wants, if they identify with that pro or con choice, those hot button, morally ambiguous topics, if the Spectre acts on one of those ideas and offends some part of the reader base, he's also going to be seen as a champion on the other side of the coin. Again, he gets to please, and we get to tease two different masters. Having talked with you about the Spectre possibly coming back, again, I was fearing that this could be just a pulling him off the shelf from the 1940s character that, you know, even Corrigan's a man out of time, like
Captain America.
Yeah. So yeah, that story's been kind of played out, but again, a lot of stories have been played out. This hero held hostage, the Spectre, Corrigan, making mistakes, even though you're acting on the authority of God.
Or your own moral whims.
Well, that's where I think Corrigan, would be a brilliant choice to do, because if you could throw the mantle onto somebody else, you know, like I was initially thinking maybe like Simon Baz maybe to do that, but I think Corrigan is the right man for the right job in this regard, and no feminist apologies for that. You know, he's the right man for the right job in this situation. It's Corrigan.
Yeah.
See, that's even like the policing of that. He'd be like, no, I am the right man for the job. This is divine. I was told that it had to be me. No apologies. This is the right choice. No apologies.
And if you're going to have him in... I mean, another thing is, the Spectre is often used as a MacGuffin in major events. He goes up against these big, gigantic, destructive figures, like the Anti-Monitor in Crisis on Infinite Earths. And yet, despite all that, the Spectre didn't come in until the middle of the story. He didn't confront him until the middle. Why couldn't he have been there throughout the whole thing? It took the destruction of several universes and even one of the biggest DC heroes Barry Allen, for the Spectre go, okay, enough is enough. I got to do something. Why wasn't he there from the very beginning? Not that the story was bad, mind you. Just
Yeah.
makes you think.
Well, we got right now we're in the midst of Doomsday Clock, and I think that would be a great place to kind of maybe throw him in there too. If we're gonna throw out and bring out other characters and stuff, if we're gonna have Manhattan, you're gonna have Superman, all these super like way invulnerable characters. Throw in that moral ambiguity and make them question their own choices, their own morality, their own humanity, I guess would be kind of a way to say it, and without apologies. Corgan would be the one to do that because of his experience, because of his past failures. I think Corgan coming back as a Spectre is the hero's redemption story that we sometimes don't get to see, that is often afforded the villains trying to do this redemption story arc. I think Corgan as the Spectre makes much more sense as a redemptive hero, plays with hot button topic social issues that people are going to pick up the book to see what is he doing and what's he saying about this. Oh my gosh, there's this topic, whatever the topic is. I mean, we talked about like gun control. Put an issue out on it. Like, and if you put your foot on the wrong side, listen to fans and sell them what they want. At least you're taking a side. You're getting people interested, emotionally invested in the story you're writing. Let the dominoes fall down as they may, and then react how the fans, people will respond, I think, very well to a character who doesn't make apologies. And if the Spectre comes back, I think that's what he's going to have to do. Make no apologies, learn from his experiences, and don't make some of the same mistakes. All in the name of what is right. And what is right? Stopping evil, comprehending evil. And if we can make that clear cut, if DC can make that clear cut, what evil is, then cha-ching,
And as long as they're willing to commit to it.
True. There's some flexibility in that. I think the commitment I would want is not necessarily, I would allow them to walk back a decision they may have made if it turns out to be something we find out to be erroneous or too divisive. If something new comes out that we learn, like, oh my goodness, that was the wrong choice, and how could we have been so foolish? We didn't know at the time. Allow them to walk it back. But the commitment I wouldn't want is them to say, here's a 6-issue series. He's going to solve this problem in 6 issues. No, he's not. No, he's not.
Yeah. Even if you do it in 6 issues, like, what's going to happen to him after? Are we going to see him in another book? You got him in the DC universe. You got all these characters. Where's he going to appear next? I'm interested in seeing what happens to him next. Because, see, DC's got all these characters. They got all these properties. But they seem to... And yes, they are trying to focus on some of the smaller ones and also trying to create new ones.
Yeah.
But what about all the other ones that they have? All the other ones that have potential to become something bigger than what they are. I mean, we've already seen that they can be bigger than what they are. Then do it.
Yeah.
Actually do it.
I think the commitment allows for the ramifications of a possible mistake. Even a mistake done by someone acting in the name of God, because they themselves are, I guess, almost mortal. We're talking about bringing them back from the dead third time, but, you have that mortal experience, that mortal understanding. There are consequences of an action. I mean, that's what the Spectre's all about. There are consequences for your actions. Let there be consequences for the Spectre's actions, not just a limited series. Put him in a book. If he stumbles, let him fall. Show how he gets back up. Show how the rest of the world either helps him stand up or see who pushes him down further. That's a good story arc. Especially if you can tie it into that moral ambiguity that the Spectre plays with. You're going to get people interested just to see where this is going. And that's why I think The Spectre is our hero held hostage.
And,
Final thoughts, Phil?
Yeah. I mean, if DC were to bring the Spectre back, whether it be in a story or an ongoing, then I suggest that they know who it is that they want to do this. Don't just put the Spectre in just simply in for fan service. I wouldn't want to see the Spectre put in simply because I want it. I would want to see the Spectre in because I would want to see what kind of story that they could do with him. What kind of potential does he have in our time? And how they run with it. And whosoever they choose, if they were to give him his own book again, make sure that they are prepared for whatever comes next.
Criticisms and praise from groups they may not even have known about.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't really care who. Well, I would kind of care who does Spectre based on their experience.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I would be curious as to what they would do when they get it. Would I want the Spectre to be written and drawn by John Ostrander and Tom Mandrake again? Probably, yeah. But I don't know what they would do now that would be different or similar to what they've done before. I know that we talked about how one particular character, Steele, was done by Louise Simonson, a white Jewish woman, and she was writing him as she believed whether a character would be in his situation, whether he be black or otherwise. And then Christopher Priest took over. But the thing is, again, it's also a matter, not so much more of, but also a matter, again, going back to that DC committing to it and letting it run, regardless of whether sales go up or sales go down.
There's got to be that maturity and the same kind of maturity that we'd expect from the Spectre. I say DC, not PC, for the Spectre's return. Go with it. Go with your gut. Pick a side. Claim it's for righteous authority. And see where the chips may fall. This is Dave.
And this is Phil.
And the Spectre is our heroes held hostage. And until next time,
stay cool.